the state puts the finishing touches on plans to rebuild Interstate 91 through Springfield, many of you are wondering how this project may impact your life each day. Well, tonight, the 22 News I-Team begins a three-part series that we hope will answer some of your questions.
The bottom line is we have to do this project. This is an absolute necessity, and we need to get it done sooner than later.
It's no secret that the raised portion of I-91 in Springfield is deteriorating and needs work. Now it's finally going to get it, but the big question is, how will the construction impact you?
What is this going to do to us? Halt our business, improve our business?
To get the answers, the 22 News I-Team crunched the numbers and traveled the region to talk to experts. We found there are 75,000 cars that drive that stretch of 91 daily. And in order to fix the highway, exits will periodically have to close and detours will be set up in downtown Springfield. The project's traffic and safety director out of Boston told the I-Team the main detour, Columbus Ave, will be modified to accommodate the influx of traffic.
Make some improvements at some of the signalized intersections, change some patterns in terms of how we're routing traffic through the intersections, improve sequencing and timing.
And we'll be down from 3 to 2 lanes of traffic in each direction. In all, we found out drivers should expect an additional 10 to 15 minutes to be tacked on to their commute. But aside from the traffic, we discovered another potential problem that has yet to be solved. What about parking? The parking lot situation, people who need to get down here and park who won't have that opportunity to take these other options. Where are people going to be parking during?
Very good question, and that's one of the ones that's being wrestled with. The first thing is it's not yet clear from the engineering staff whether the parking areas under 91 can be kept open during construction.
And shop owners are waiting to hear how construction will impact their business. So you kind of like the idea of cars being pushed down to Columbus?
I'd like to see it, as long as the traffic jams weren't too bad.
This extra traffic, you know, it may help, it may not.
Are you having concerns about making it through all this construction?
Yes. Yes, I think everyone is that is along these streets here. We're all wondering, but, you know, we're hoping it'll turn out good.
Soon enough, they'll find out firsthand. The $260 million project goes out to bid this summer. Construction starts shortly after and is expected to last 3 years. And for the second part of the series, we traveled to a few different areas in New England that had recently completed massive transportation projects of their own to find out what, if any, unexpected changes they came across once their construction began. It will help us get a better idea of what can happen to the cost and timeline of our own project here. So join us for that story on 22 News next week. I'm Laura Hutchinson, working for you with the 22 News I-Team.
The 22 News I-Team continues to measure the impact of that I-91 reconstruction project and that it will have on you. Tonight, I-Team reporter Laura Hutchinson investigates how the state is trying to prepare for the unexpected.
The last thing anyone wants is for this project to go over budget or take longer than expected. So we did some working for you to find out what the state's doing to keep that from happening. Springfield's highly traveled I-91 raised highway is scheduled to be under construction for 3 years and cost about $260 million. With 75,000 cars driving over it every day, it's important it stays on schedule.
It's going to be tough, especially on the people going to work. It's going to be tough.
So the 22 News I-Team working for you traveled from Springfield to Boston and Connecticut to find out what factors have slowed other big road projects in the region. In Boston, we talked to Neil Boudreau, the project's traffic and safety director, who admits sometimes the unexpected happens.
Anytime you start getting into the structural, taking the deck off and stuff like that, look at the structural, it usually comes down to unexpected repairs.
Boudreau says they've already had crews by the viaduct to check out the steel and the structure where they can to get ahead of the project, but he says there are some parts of the highway they simply can't check until it's time to get started. And Connecticut Department of Transportation spokesman Kevin Nursek had good news and bad news when it came to the cost of the project. The good news is, in this economy, bids on the project are competitive.
These days, projects tend to be coming in under budget. You know, It's a competitive bidding market out there now.
The bad news we found out is the cost of everything is going up, and that includes building materials.
The price of steel might change from one month to the next, or an unforeseen circumstance, which is no fault of the contractor, could add to the cost of a project. But you basically build those things into the project to a reasonable level. 20%, 25% potential contingencies on a mega project.
When we asked Boudreau about cost inflation, he said they've already over budgeted for it.
We always carry an extra allowance in case something that we didn't foresee happens. But at least we're not having to worry about asking for extra money after the fact.
As far as the timeline is concerned, the state's transportation secretary told the I-Team while we have years of work ahead, drivers can expect breaks.
We say 3 years, but we won't do a lot of work in the winter. So it's probably more like 7 months and then some time off, 7 months and some time off. So that's the challenge that we have.
We'll know more about the cost and timeline when the project goes out to bid this summer. And we continue to learn more about this project for you. In fact, the I-Team is working on getting the results of a survey that just went out to the community. You may have filled one out. We'll have the results in our investigation on Monday. I'm Laura Hutchinson working for you with the 22 News I-Team.
We're learning more tonight about how the state is trying to minimize the impact of construction on I-91. 22 News I-Team reporter Laura Hutchinson got some preliminary results of a survey the state conducted.
Over the last few weeks, we've given you an inside look at how the state is preparing for construction of the I-91 viaduct, and now we have an exclusive look at a survey that was conducted. 22 News is getting an exclusive inside look at information the state is using to determine how to handle the traffic and parking issues that will inevitably come from construction of I-91 in Springfield. 3,000 people in Western Mass were given this survey that Transportation Secretary Richard Davey said helps them figure out what they need to plan for.
Certainly it will help us figure out the exact time of days we should be taking lanes or doing meaningful construction. If there's mitigation that we could provide, perhaps working with PVTA, for example, to run additional bus service.
Preliminary results of the 3,000 people surveyed indicate 93% of them use I-91, 291, East Columbus Ave, or Hall of Fame Ave during their day, and 96% of people drive alone instead of carpooling. Neil Boudreau, the project's director of traffic and safety, told the I-Team one way they'll try to control the number of cars using the highway during construction time is to keep people from getting on the highway just to go short distances.
A third of it is actually downtown local traffic. Sometimes it's people just getting up on the highway and down just to get internet mobility within the city. So we're going to kind of use that third is how can we move them to another location. If they don't have to get up on the interstate, can we make it more convenient for them to use the downtown streets?
There were also questions involving travel time and parking that the state hasn't released results for yet. More results will be available at a design meeting in Springfield on May 20th. To take a look at the survey or other stories on this project, you can head to our website, wwlp.com.